Welcome to the Eat for Endurance podcast, where we explore the connection between nutrition, performance, and health for busy, active people. I'm Claire Schornstein, a sports dietitian and endurance athlete, and in every episode, I share evidence-based guidance, inspiring athlete stories, and practical tips on a wide variety of nutrition topics so that you can feel better, crush your endurance goals, and thrive as a human being. Today, I'm chatting with sports dietitian and endurance athlete Alex Larson. Alex is based in Minnesota and specializes in helping runners, cyclists, and triathletes optimize their nutrition for peak performance while cultivating a positive relationship with food. She's also a mom of three and a fellow podcaster, so we had plenty to discuss both on and off the air. The first half of this episode is focused on triathlon nutrition, since I haven't covered this topic in a couple years and wanted to address it from some different angles. Alex is an Ironman finisher and has some really great tips on nutrition for multi-sport athletes, so definitely give it a listen if you're training for an event or if you're simply tri-curious like me. And then in the second half of the episode, we chat about whether or not endurance athletes should work on changing their body composition during a training block. Now, if you've been here a while at the Eat for Endurance podcast, you know that I generally encourage athletes not to work on weight loss or body comp goals while training for an event because it can increase risks for low energy availability, injury, and reduced performance. I still do believe this to be true for the majority of the clients that I see. That said, this topic is very nuanced, as most nutrition topics are, and it does depend on the individual. Alex has a slightly different take, I would say, based on her experience in private practice from some other dietitians I've spoken to. And she shares that while it's preferable to work on body comp goals during the off season, you can achieve body comp goals during a training block without negative impacts with the right approach. And the really big asterisk here is that she always vets her clients very heavily to make sure it's appropriate to work on this type of goal. And the process of getting leaner is very, very slow. I do still think this can be a slippery slope for many people to work on this stuff, at least with my population, but I can also see how it works for certain athletes, and I did really enjoy exploring and debating this topic with Alex. So definitely give it a listen. Before we dive in, though, I do have a couple quick announcements. First, if you're interested in working with me as a new one-to-one client, I have a few spots open for my 3-month program to start anytime up until October 3rd. After that, I will not be starting any new 3-month clients until mid-January. So if you are eager to get on my schedule as a one-to-one client this year, please go visit my website, eatforendurance.com, and fill out a new client inquiry ASAP. I do offer free discovery calls as well, so we can have a chat about your goals and to make sure we're a good fit before you commit. And if you love some expert nutrition help, but without the financial or time commitment, please go check out my Fuel for Life crew membership over at eatforendurance.com. Whether you want to feel better on busy days, get your nutrition ready for race day, identify and fix nutrient gaps, or better understand supplements, or whatever else is on your mind, Fuel for Life crew makes it simple. For just $30 a month, you get full access to my nutrition guides and masterclasses with new ones added regularly, monthly live calls and Q&A sessions where you help pick the topics, a private Slack community where you can ask all the questions you want and connect with me and other like-minded people about all things nutrition. It really is an awesome space. It is built for you guys. It runs year-round with any commitment, and you can try it for a month. You can cancel anytime, or you can get a discount if you sign up for multiple months. Again, go over to eatforendurance.com to try it out. All right, here is my chat with fellow sports dietitian Alex Larson. Alex, welcome to the Eat for Nerds podcast. So nice to have you here today. How's everything going?
It's great. I'm so glad to be here and chat with you.
Yeah. So I always like to start these RD interviews just learning a little bit more about you. So if you can just share a little bit of your background as a dietitian and an athlete, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so I have been a dietitian for 12, 13 years now, and sports nutrition was not on my radar initially. My parents were in the healthcare field, and so I thought I for sure was going to work in a hospital. And then after I got my RD credential, I have never actually set foot in working as a dietitian in a hospital, which is really ironic. So I started out as a grocery store dietitian. I worked in the aisles of a grocery store, helping people with their shopping and their food choices, which was an amazing first job. I worked a little bit in agricultural promotion, from a nutrition perspective as well. And then during that time, though, I was also really into triathlons. I had grown up riding horses for kind of and like a hobby activity. And then when I got into college, I had broken my foot in a horseback riding accident, and the orthopedic surgeon at the time told me, he's like, you're never going to run again, because I had like smashed my fifth metatarsal like
Oof.
a million pieces. And so after that healed and I was able to do some sort of activity, I started swimming. And I found out, I was like, oh, I'm actually a pretty decent swimmer for not being like a competitive like high school swimmer at all. And it became a really big social thing with a couple other people in college. And then when I graduated school, I wanted to stay active, but I felt like I needed a goal in mind. And there happened to be this sprint triathlon in my local hometown. I signed up for it. I doggy paddled the entire swim. I rode this $600 hybrid bike, which my boyfriend at the time, now husband, he was like, you spent how much on a bike? I'm like, $600. He's like, that is ridiculous. And it's just really ironic because like bikes are like
like $1 million. Yeah.
And so I rode this hybrid bike. I like jogged through the run because like when you transition from a bike to a run, it can be like this like kind of jello legs, your calves get really tight. It's really awful. And so, but I had like the best time. There's like this most like supportive, wonderful energy that's at these triathlons. And I was kind of hooked. And when I moved to this little southeast Minnesota town to do my first job, they had this local triathlon. I'm like, well, I've done a triathlon. And so then I just got hooked on the sport. And the next thing I know, by 2014, I was doing Ironman Wisconsin in Madison. And when you train for like a full Ironman, it is a process. Like it is 9 to 12 months of solid training. And I just remember like wanting to celebrate all of that training on race day. And I had a great race. There was nothing like super spectacular about my performance. And my goal was really just to finish. And watching other athletes in the marathon, especially in the second half of the marathon, is kind of a war zone. Like there's a lot of like puking, there's a lot of cramping, there's a lot of tears from people. Like it's a struggle. And so just watching people go through that, for myself crossing the finish line, that was kind of where sports nutrition really kind of came up on my radar as something that I wanted to help other people with. And so that's why I started Alex Larson Nutrition in 2018. And I've been doing that ever since. I started doing that full time in 2021. So triathletes, runners, cyclists are usually like our main mixed bag. I have a couple other dietitians that work with me as well. And it's just been like the best. Like, you know, Claire, like it's just the best job ever.
Yeah. No, it's definitely fun just helping people feel their best and perform their best and all that great stuff that comes with it. So today, you know, originally we were going to focus mostly on triathlon nutrition, and we're still going to touch on that. I've covered it before with another sports dietitian who's awesome, Stevie Smith, and you guys can all go back and listen to that if you haven't listened to it. But so yeah, we're going to dive a little bit into that, and then we're going to get into another topic that you've spoken about, Alex, I saw it on your Instagram, and I know you record your own episode on your podcast. It's called Endurance Eats.
Correct. Yep.
That's right. Yeah. On body comp goals while training, so it's a little bit of a hot topic because, you know, I've spoken a lot on my podcast and hear a lot of dietitians talk about, you know, hey, let's not try to lose weight or do too much change with your body intentionally, at least while in a training block, while training for an event or whatever else. But as we were kind of speaking about offline, the thing is, like, a lot of people are never not training. Like, you're always training for something. And sure, yes, there are like heavier volume periods and not. And so it's a very nuanced conversation, but we thought it would be really interesting to kind of get into it a little bit because you do have slightly different views on this. And yeah, but let's start things out by going into triathlon nutrition, because I know there are a lot of runners who listen to this, but we do have other types of endurance athletes. And I think it would be good, since we are, I'm not sure when this episode is going to come out, but I think it will come out still when triathlons are happening. So why don't we kick this discussion off by thinking about what are the things that make triathlon unique from a nutrition perspective? Because we can think about a lot of the general nutrition principles that kind of apply across the board to endurance sports, but really, what are the things that we need to be paying close attention to that, that make triathlon different?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge it's a few things. One is the volume of training, because you're training for 3 sports in one. So it's just a lot. Having done it myself, like it is a time management like cluster, trying to like navigate getting in all of that training. The transitioning between swim to bike to run also adds different elements of just logistics of getting yourself well fueled throughout the race. And then the duration too, like when you're doing like a 70.3 or a full distance, it's a long day and you're having to kind of navigate all of that. And a lot of times you're starting the run in like the heat of the day. If you're doing a marathon, usually it's like the cooler part of the day. It gets warmer towards the end, but it's like you're starting at like noon, 1, 2 o'clock when it's the hottest part of the day. And that is brutal. So those are like my main challenges that I see for athletes. And then also like the race conditions too. Like if you're looking at like Ironman California, that is pretty flat, but it's also really windy because there's not a lot of like wind cover. So for athletes that are on the bike and maybe they're not a super confident biker and they're trying to like grab sports fuel and unwrap things and like grab their bottles and they can't take their hands off the handlebars for like hours, they end up underfueled really quickly. So we have to make sure like for the race that you're doing that you are set up on your bike or on your run to be able to handle the elements of that race too, logistically.
Yeah. So I think it would be really helpful to kind of break what you just said down into how this like specifically translates to the nutrition, right? Because, and maybe we can even start with the swim piece, because obviously you're not, or at least most people, and this is where I clearly have not done a triathlon, so if I'm saying anything wrong, let me know. but my understanding is that most people are not able to fuel while in the swim. Like maybe you can tuck something into a wetsuit or whatever, but for the most part, most people are having this huge chunk of time where they're not fueling. So what tips do you have to kind of handle this large gap?
Yeah, there are a few select like longer distance races where it might be a loop where you have to get out of the water and then go back in. So that would be probably the one limited time where you could like grab something out of your wetsuit and take like a gel, but that would be really about it. But for the most part, we pretty much plan for you to not fuel during the swim. So you would try and get ahead of it by taking in some sort of like high carb gel or something like before you start the swim. And then as you get into T1, that first transition area, that's where you have to start catching up, basically, is what I tell my athletes. I'm like, okay, now we got to get caught back. So either T1 or as soon as you get on the bike and get settled, we need to start getting back on top of that nutrition. Because once you get behind in a triathlon, it's really hard to get caught back up, especially if you're in the longer distance. So I have a mantra where I'm like, you're going to eat before you're hungry, you're going to drink before you're thirsty, so that you stay ahead of it. Because once you get behind, it's really tough to get caught back up. So usually doing some sort of high carb gel at T1 or at the beginning of your bike, and then having some sort of carb hydration mix in your fluids is my number one thing that I have all of my triathletes do, because the volume of carbs that you have to take on the bike is pretty high. And to carry that much fuel in just like sports fuel and real food alone, you just wouldn't be able logistically be able to carry it on your bike. Whereas you're already having to carry fluids, we might as well just add some powder to it and get a good chunk of your carbs through that. And then we can supplement with other stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do with my triathletes as well. I don't think I've ever let any of my triathletes not have carbs in their bottle. Yeah. It just doesn't work out very well.
If they tell me they don't like them, I'm like, well, we're going to find one that you do like, because we have to have one in there. It's just, and because you're drinking so much more frequently than you're eating too, you're getting this kind of small little dose of carbs like more consistently too, so people notice their energy levels are more steady, which is kind of nice as well. So I'm just a huge fan of the hydration mixes on the bike.
Totally. For the high carb gel, like what do you define as high carb for before the swim?
I would say like 30, 40, 50. I mean, or what we're seeing now with some gels, and which is really nice. If you like the ones that are more like 20, 25, then I would do a couple of them. Or like the energy chews usually will have like 40 grams in there. So that's typically what I try to do. And then obviously like carb loading in advance and having a really big, like, amount of carbs leading up to the race in that morning.
Yep. Yeah. And I want to call that out specifically because, what we're trying to do here is really highlight the difference between, say, if you're just running a marathon or you're
just running an ultra.
I know. As I said that, oh my God. As I said that, I was like, oh my God, I sound ridiculous. The words came out. I was like, oh, I want to take that back. It's all relative.
But like when you're swimming and you're biking before it's crazy.
It's all relative. It's all relative. Yeah. So if you are running a marathon or if you are running even an ultra marathon compared to, say, this long course triathlon where, again, we're not able to fuel for a huge chunk of time. So like in those first cases, maybe it's okay to take just the 20 to 30 gram gel, which is, I mean, on the whole, in most race plans, I'm usually having someone do that final top up of fuel before they start anyways. But then, so the difference being, okay, do that, but just more of it. So maybe, as you said, maybe we're doubling it. Maybe we're taking a 40-gram gel. There are a lot of larger gels now, which is awesome. You can get the 40 or 50 or 60 or whatever. So just kind of playing around with what you can tolerate. And if you can't take it like all down in one shot, maybe you're just taking it across like 10 minutes or whatever it is you need.
Yeah, you got to get it down. And like really, if you struggle like with nerves and whatnot, you can drink your carbs too. You just, it takes a little bit longer, obviously. And the nice thing about the triathlon is you can pee in your wetsuit in the water. Like everyone does it. And so you don't really have to worry about like that last minute porta potty stop, because once you get in the water, you can pee. Yeah. There you go.
Okay. So that's the swim. Is there anything else? I guess we talked about T1. So I guess we can talk about the bike now. So the bike really, that's the place we kind of catch up. And really, again, the triathlon, I think of it as like, it's like, yes, it's relatively consistent, but we have this gap, then we have this period on the bike where we're really trying to get in as much as you can possibly tolerate, because inevitably on the run, I mean, we just know you're not going to be able to take in very much.
My mantra is the bike is the buffet. That's what I tell all of my athletes. And so some of them are like, I was riding the bike, and I just kept going in my head, like, the bike is the buffet, the bike is the buffet. Like they're constantly thinking about drinking and eating, because the object of the bike is to set you up for a strong run. Okay. Yeah. So that's the number one priority of fueling and hydrating on the bike, is to never get behind, to almost stay a little bit ahead of it, so that you don't have to try and catch back up on the run. Because again, it's the hottest part of the day. So gut tolerance wise, like it's going to be really tricky to push the envelope there. And just the nature of running, as a lot of runners know, like that jostling motion, your heart rate's a little bit higher on the run than it is the bike, that you're just not able to tolerate as high a rate of carbs per hour as you can on the bike. So, when you hear people talking about like, oh, cyclists are doing 100, 120 grams of carb an hour, like there's a couple of my triathletes that are pretty high level that put out a lot of watts on the bike, where we just kind of push the envelope in their long rides and their training, and they still were kind of hungry towards the end. I'm like, okay, I think we can go up to 120. And they handled it like amazingly well. And then we just dialed it back like that last 45 minutes of the bike, so that they don't go into the run with like a full stomach of fuel. Yeah. So, I mean, when I said the bike is a buffet, like that's where we can really practice gut tolerance to set you up for a really strong run. So if people are like bonking on the run or really just struggling, I'm like, let's look at your bike nutrition. Like, let's see if we can up that ante and set you up stronger.
So that's the carb piece. What about protein?
I typically don't recommend any protein.
Even for like an Ironman, full Ironman?
Yeah, not usually. I mean, if they wanted to do like some real food, like I'm a huge fan of maybe like a peanut butter and jelly, like at your special needs bag, just not necessarily, because protein doesn't really help with performance per se, but it does give you a little bit of a morale boost in just like having a different like change of flavor profile. So having some sort of like savory food, some real food in there, because it's a very long day. But I typically like, I'm not sitting here going like, you need to have protein to see like a better performance. But if people are needing something a little different just to avoid flavor fatigue, then I'm certainly open to that. The nice thing about, again, the hydration mixes in your bottle and getting a good chunk of your carbs that way is it saves you from having to consume a lot of gels on the bike. So then you can have more gels on the run and not be tired of them. That's the other perk of that too. Yeah.
So, okay. So kind of summing up the bike, it's where we're kind of getting ahead of things. We're catching up, we're getting ahead, but then tapering off. So that's that key point. We want to remember to kind of taper off a little bit towards the end. I have my clients do the same. So we're not going into the run filling.
Like if someone is known for having GI issues on those longer distance races, if they're doing quite a bit of protein or choosing like sports fuels that have a little bit of fiber in them. I had one triathlete specifically that she's like, I always have to have a bowel movement on the run. She's like, I want to really like eliminate that because I'm wanting to get a lot faster. And I was looking at her sports fuel and almost all of them had like 1 to 2 grams of fiber. And I'm like, by the time you're getting to the run, like you've had probably like 15, 18 grams of fiber. I was like, that might, and that honestly did it. Was we just switched her fuel and she didn't have any like bowel movement issues on the run.
Do you remember what kind of fuel she was taking that has like gels that had fiber?
I wanted
No.
to say it was like Spring Energy, which
Yeah,
they're dead. They're dead to me anyways. So
yeah, they are. Exactly.
But like some of their other products, yeah, it was just more of, or like the Humagels, like with the chia in there, will have like a little bit of fiber too. So it's like those are great in smaller amounts, but if you're consuming a lot of them, I mean that adds up.
Yeah, and then there's another company, Muir Energy, I think.
Oh,
MUIR.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking at that for another a runner I was working with, and I was like, ooh, that has a lot of fat and a lot of stuff going on. I'm like, yeah, this isn't good for GI stuff.
Yeah. It's no good. And I think for GIs, for sensitive stomachs, you want to just go for the straight sugar stuff.
Yeah. So like the way I approach bike, we're obviously carbs, that's the main focus, and fluids and electrolytes and all that. And then we're bringing in maybe little bits of protein or different flavors or real food, kind of as tolerated as desired, dependent on the person and what's going on. So it's a little different than, say, ultra running, especially like much longer distances ultra running, where I'm definitely working in. Yeah, that's like a whole different beast. Yeah,
and pizza and like.
Well, so as tolerant. Yeah, so. Yeah, so I just want to I'm making the distinction that obviously this is a completely different situation. Where in ultra, like I'm definitely working it in.
Ironman race courses, especially on the run, they will have like pretzels and goldfish and chips, but they're not going to have like anything compared to the buffet that's at an ultra running event. So very, very different setting for sure.
And like on the whole, I've had this conversation with another dietitian as well. On the whole, I feel like, generally speaking, and like exercise intensity, like the output is at a much higher level for a triathlon versus an ultra.
Yeah.
So the tolerance is down
50, 60 VO2. I mean, they're going at in a slightly higher endurance effort typically. Like they've built up that endurance aerobic engine so that they can go a really nice pace for that long of distance. Whereas with triathletes, they're going, more like 60, 70, 80% VO2 max, depending on the length of the race. Sprint distance triathlon, they're going all out in that run. Olympic distance, they're hauling the mail pretty well. 70.3s and full Ironmans, like they're still pushing the envelope a lot more. A little bit less than like a marathon runner, but overall, it's a lot harder than an ultra runner.
Yeah. So we have to be very careful of what we're putting in, which brings me to kind of the next question. I mean, we already touched a little bit on GI, and you were talking about like fiber and kind of paying attention to fuel. And then of course the heat, and of course it's just the longer you're out there, the more things that can go wrong. So on longer course triathlons, by the time you hit the run, you've been there out for a really long time. So, GI stuff, very, very common. It's the most common complaint I get with my triathletes. And I'm curious kind of what other troubleshooting type things or what you're working on or what you're kind of flagging when you're trying to figure out how to minimize the risk of there being a GI distress event happening.
Yeah, but a couple things that are probably our most common is, one, we make sure they're like low fiber during their carb load for those like 2-3 days before the race. Like, let's do a low fiber diet in addition to like getting all the carbs in. So that can help. And then the other thing is hydration, like making sure we understand what's their sweat rate, what's the temperature and humidity going to be of their race, like how much do they need to keep up on hydration post swim and throughout the bike and then during the run to keep themselves from getting too dehydrated. Because once you get dehydrated, like that really can wreak havoc on gut GI, and just having things like move along consistently if they're getting overheated and having those problems. So that would be probably the two main things that I would look at. And then especially for full distance Ironman athletes, when they get to the run, I usually say, I'm like, hey, if you get like halfway through the run and your stomach just starts to feel like it's going a little south, just know that sometimes just happens with these really long races, and to not panic. This might be the time to look for that flat Coke that they serve. There's something about it. It really can settle the stomach and bring people back to life. It could be just the combination of like the caffeine and that sugar, and just a little bit different flavor profile. It just kind of helps. So like if other things aren't sounding real great and your stomach's just going a little bit of south, I was like, try the flat Coke. And usually that's kind of their saving grace as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. But this is definitely the thing that most people complain of across the board, across all GI or endurance sports. Yeah. It's like ultra runners too. And it's always hard once, yeah, once you're kind of in that spot and you're just like, oh my God, now what? What do I do? Because obviously we want to do everything we can to prevent this from happening. But sometimes there will always be things out of our control. And sometimes you just have a bad day or something just doesn't sit right or whatever. Like we can practice all the things and sometimes it happens. So flat Coke, are there any other things you like to kind of tell people, like, if this happens, what do you do? Kind of that kind of situation?
If they get in a situation where they're like consuming fluids and fuel and they feel like their stomach is like getting fuller and fuller and like it's not emptying, I tell them, okay, I need you to look at your heart rate. I need to look at like how you're feeling, like body temperature wise, like what's the conditions of the race, because you might be getting overheated. And when we get overheated, our body's going to divert blood flow away from the gut and it's going to basically stop your stomach from emptying. And so it's like you have to slow down and get your heart rate down so we can get your GI tract moving again, because otherwise you're going to start throwing up. You're going to get really nauseous and everything's going to come up, and then we're starting from like scratch at this point. Yeah. So that's something that I tell a lot of athletes if they're going into a really hot race. I'm like, you need to find ways to keep yourself cool, like grabbing water at the aid stations, putting it over yourself, trying to get yourself to keep that body temp down, keep your heart rate down. You might not be able to go at the pace you were hoping to just because of the conditions, to keep that GI tract moving. So just understanding like what's going on in your body, I think too helps athletes finish safely versus trying to push it and then crashing and burning and ending up in med tent.
Yeah, totally. I mentioned offline that I was considering getting in triathlon at some point, and
do it.
Just
it's, I just warn you, it's an addictive sport, right? Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess never say never. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. It kind of freaks me out. The swimming in the ocean, the bike, all this stuff freaks me out. But
I told you, I'm a Midwest girl. Like the ocean terrifies me. And, like, I don't think I could ever do an ocean swim. I just would have a full-on panic attack. But like lake swims here in the Midwest are fantastic.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's no sharks. No. Like,
But I'm considering. I decided not to do it this year, but maybe next year as just a fun, different goal to do either like maybe a sprint or maybe even Olympic. Because of course, in my mind, I'm like, why would I bother doing a sprint? Obviously, I should just go for the Olympic. It's like
I was the one that started with sprints and then I built up to the long distance.
Yeah,
it would be really hard to go like straight to a full distance, which some people do, and I got to give them lots of credit. But that it's
well, in my mind, I was swimming. I was already swimming much longer than what's an Olympic swim again? What's that distance?
It's like 0.9 miles. It's like,
yeah. So I was swimming longer than that already. And of course I know it's different, open water versus the pool, but I was like, in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, it'll be fine. I'm like, I've run for hours and hours. Like I've done ultra marathons, and like the bike I'll figure out the bike. And then, so like, I could probably do this. But anyways, given that I will be a complete newbie, if there are any other people listening who have never done a triathlon, they're curious about getting into it, are there any like tips or tricks, things to keep in mind, whether it's on the nutrition front or not, that you would tell someone like me?
Yeah, I would. When you start on the bike, like training on the bike, a lot of athletes will ride on a trainer, which I do a ton of trainer riding, but do make sure that you get out on the bike and get comfortable, like grabbing your water bottle or grabbing for fuel, like in your jersey pocket, and like get really comfortable, like taking your hand off the handlebars, and like the bike handling skills is really important that I think some people forget. They're just like so focused on like their FTP and their power wattage and like getting, all of that built up. And I'm like, I need you to have some really good bike handling skills and be able to grab your sports fuel, unwrap it, like consume it, put the wrapper back in your pocket or your bento box or whatever it is. Like all of those like logistic things, some people forget about those. And then they're like in the middle of the race and like, I'm not comfortable like grabbing my sports fuel. So having to stop in order to like take in fuel, and that's not great either. So that would be probably my biggest thing, is just practice the logistics of taking off your wetsuit, like putting all your stuff like on and getting on the bike and not forgetting anything. Like those things matter to just have a really like smooth sailing, successful race.
Yeah, totally. That's a good one. And that would be a huge one for me, because I really have not done much cycling at all. I've done very little cycling. And I'm terrified of falling off and getting a crash.
Right now, I'm like a gravel cyclist addict right now. racing this weekend. I'm so excited. And it's just the best. And they say an injured runner is called a cyclist, right? But like the beautiful thing about cross training is that like you have a little bit less time on your legs, like running. And then if you're a really good runner, you can do really well in triathlon. Like running's my weakest one. So like I would be really strong on the swim and a bike, and then people would pass me on the run because they're just so much faster than I was, and I'd always get really mad. But someday maybe I'll get to be a better runner. I don't know. But if you're a really good runner, like once you get there, like get into T2, you're just like, oh, this is exciting, and then you can have a really strong finish.
Yeah. All right. I have one more triathlon question, then we're going to shift focus to the other part of our recording topics here. So in the swim, like I know I swam in the ocean for the first time a couple times when I was in Hawaii, because I still have not gotten up the courage to swim here in Santa Cruz with all the sharks and the cold and all that. And I swam once in the Atlantic Ocean, and like the salt, like, do you ever have clients who, cause like I can't keep water out of my mouth. It's like in your mouth, right? Or even like lake water. I don't know. Not to mention like whatever the hell's in that water, right? Especially with like lakes that cannot be safe. But do you ever have clients who struggle with just like the water and the taste and the things that are getting in their mouths? And does that ever like affect them later? Or do you talk about, like, is that ever a part of your conversation? Because I was just really curious about it, because I got so like thirsty and my mouth just tasted gross.
It's not super common that I have them reporting like, but sometimes the swim was really rough for them. They're like, I drank a lot of lake water or a lot of like ocean water. And so like they had kind of some GI issues on the bike. Yeah. They just like didn't feel real great. It doesn't happen super often though. Okay. And so like as you practice those open water swims, which I highly recommend doing like a number of times, so nothing will prepare you fully for like the actual race experience and having that many people swim around you. You just have to do quite a bit of races to kind of build up that comfort level. It took me probably at least a dozen races of just sprint and Olympic distance before I was like finally really comfortable in that kind of washing machine turbulence of, it sounds really scary, but like honestly the swim is the shortest part, and you kind of just like your mind just like shuts it out of your memory afterwards.
I've seen pictures of like so Stevie, the other dietitian, posted like a mass start like photo of like a mass start. I guess they don't do that anymore, but I was like, that gave me an anxiety attack. Like,
that's how my Ironman Wisconsin was like 2,500 people all starting at once. Like the video I have, it's like insane. All of those people. But here's the thing about Wisconsin though, is the tradition is when you turn on the first buoy, you're supposed to moo. Okay. Cause it's Wisconsin. Like they're known for their cows. And I had kind of forgot about it like during the race. And so when I got to the first turn buoy in the swim, everyone's like, all I hear is this, and I'm like, there's all these arms and legs everywhere. And because all of these people are coming out to this one corner. So it was just insanity. And then they're what sounds like moaning. And I was like, I am in Hades like a fire. I'm in literal hell because this is like, you know, like the Hercules Disney movie where like they're like the arms grabbing him. That's what it felt like. I was like, what am I doing? And so I like turned the buoy, and there was a kayaker right there trying to like guide people to the next buoy. And I was like grabbed onto the kayak, and I just held onto it for like a good 60 seconds to like bring my heart rate down, and then I kept going, and I obviously finished. But it was like, never will I ever forget that.
See, like, I don't want to do a triathlon. This is making me not want to do a triathlon.
I don't but I did it. Like, I did it. And it was fine. But, like, that was, they don't do mass starts like that anymore. Like, It's the, like, 2 or 3 people go out every 5 seconds or whatever it is. So it's not as bad as those mass starts where it's 2,500 people all converging on one turn buoy. So, yeah. Yeah, no thanks. Truly, like, such a great sport, and highly recommend, but it is really challenging, and most people, what deters them is the swim. So if you can get through that, you can get through the rest of the race fine.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to shift gears now. I mean, it's somewhat related because I feel like this is always such a big topic amongst, well, not just my triathletes, but really everybody, all my cyclists, all my runners, pretty much everybody. athletes and body comp / weight loss is kind of the topic here. You had, again, I didn't listen to it, but on your own podcast, you had an episode recently, and I forget the title, but it was something along the lines of, can athletes,
should they,
what was it? Should they
work
lose
on
weight?
body composition?
Yes, that was it.
during like a training block. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, and as we were talking about this offline a bit, historically, and listeners of my podcast, you'll know this because I've said this a million times, like I'm usually not recommending weight loss during a training cycle. And I still feel that way. And it does feel very high risk. And kind of when I was reading your blog, you're saying that earlier in your career as a dietitian, you felt like, you were really discouraging weight loss during any kind of training block because of the risks, whether it's injury risk or risk of REDs or whatever it may be. It just felt very risky. And in my mind, whenever we're trying to work on weight loss and a performance goal, maybe because we're talking about triathlon, maybe you're training for an Ironman or whatever, especially as an endurance athlete, if you do both at once, in my mind, you likely are to do a really crappy job at both. And so where I stand, I'm certainly not like, if someone has a weight loss goal and it's in the off season or some other time where you're training a little bit less, at least, because often people are never not training, then that may be more appropriate, and to kind of do the bulk of that work then, but then in like a training cycle to really be focusing on performance and feeling yourself as best as you can and all that. But I know there's a little more nuance to this discussion, and you have a little bit of a differing view, it seems, than maybe what I've just presented,
or the past couple years.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that, and it's not like I'm sitting here going like, you're wrong, Claire. Like, that's not.
Yeah.
Like,
but I want to have a conversation about it, because I was really intrigued, because you were saying that you used to be like this and now it's evolved a bit, and now you work with clients to help them get lean and in a very slow and, healthy way. So being very cognizant of these risks. It's not like you're abandoning it, being like, screw it, we're just going to go for, so you're being very cognizant of all this stuff. You really want to support performance, and you're trying to really thread the needle, it sounds like. And so I thought it would be a really interesting discussion for us to have, because, I'm always open to new things, and I always love learning about what other people are doing. And sometimes I'm not on the same page with them, and sometimes I am, but, I just thought it'd be really interesting. So let's explore this.
Yeah. Where should we start? I mean, okay.
So I want to hear about what got you from point A to point B in terms of how this evolution happened.
Yeah. Well, there was certainly some instances with athletes where I was basically doing like a reverse diet with them, where they were so underfueled, where we gradually built their nutrition back up to where their maintenance level was. And especially for men, this happened a lot with men, they were losing weight, and they were eating more than ever. And that was really fun to see happen for them. Mm-hmm. So I had a couple years ago, ultra runner that wanted to lose, over the years, he just gradually seen that slow, sneaky weight gain. And so he was probably 15, 20 pounds heavier than he was 2 years prior. And he was always in shape for a 50K is how he described it. He's I'm always running. There's never an off season. And so when I calculated his needs, he was eating about 18 to 1900 calories a day. And he needed more 28, 2900 calories a day, just based off of his training and his body sizes and his age. So I'm okay, we need to get you fueling a lot more. And so we gradually just built his calories back up. It's not like we went from 1,000 calories added on it overnight. And he saw probably 16-pound weight loss in about 8 to 10 weeks. So it was 1 to 2 pounds a week that he was seeing.
Oh, wow.
And just improved eating, his fueling was better, and running faster than ever. He had done very similar workouts and had similar heart rates, but he was doing them a lot faster. And so we knew we were on the right track there. So that was kind of the start of it. And then when I added on my dietitian team members, so I have Hannah and Mary on my team, we just between the three of us, in our brain power, we started helping athletes more and more with body composition goals and still seeing really great results in performance. So things if they were under fueling during the day, but then they were seeing a lot of massive amounts of calorie eating in the evening hours, not necessarily a binge eating disorder, but just they're so ferociously hungry because they hardly ate anything during the day. So they're just having this big dinner and then lots of snacks in the evening. So for us to start front loading nutrition for them and really optimizing like protein earlier on in the day to regulate appetite, being just more mindful in like breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then snacks in between, and then still fueling their workouts really well. We were seeing really great body composition results there. So that's where I started being like, I think we can do both. You know what I mean? Like that's where I started to change my tune in just seeing, like going in from an individualized standpoint with each individual athlete. It's not like we're doing the same exact thing with every single one. We're really honing in on the individual and what they have going on. Like, are they just really inconsistent with nutrition where they're under fueling some days and then massively over fueling other days? Are they eating enough in their day to day, but not hardly fueling their workouts at all, or maybe not fueling even before their workouts? Like, what can we change to optimize seeing bigger performance gains, but also honing in on where we can like make some changes that are going to support body composition as well. So that's where that kind of all started.
So it kind of sounds like, I mean, whenever I'm working with someone with weight loss or body comp goals, because I do work on that, by the way, just to clarify. It's not like I'm not working on that. I'm just kind of very careful with when and with who I do it with. Because just also to clarify further, almost everyone who comes to me has some sort of, they're like, I want to like perform really well in this race and I want to drop this much weight. And but then like we dig a little deeper and it's like, okay, there's disordered eating and you're not feeling well. We have like iron deficiency. There's just so many problems. And again, as I was kind of mentioning online, it's like we have so many other more pressing issues to work on. Like this can't be the thing that we're like even thinking about, and it's not appropriate. But for someone where it is appropriate, a lot of times we're doing that full assessment of somebody and looking for all the gaps and trying to make eating more consistent and balanced and meeting their specific needs for their training. And what I always like to tell people is like, I'm going to do all the things that I normally do with anybody across the board. And obviously it's very much tailored to you given your specific life and challenges and whatever histories, etc. But we're going to do all these things. And then we're going to see where does your body fall after, like what happens, let's just see what kind of happens there. And then from there, we kind of further tweak things. Like that's kind of often the approach I take, but I'm hearing a lot of similarly, you're kind of looking for like, yes, are they fueling their workouts? Like what is their eating in the everyday looking like? And, is it balanced? Are they getting enough protein? Are they getting the carbs in? And then I guess the other piece then, so when you say then we're kind of doing that little bit deeper, digging around and tweaking with nutrition for body comp goals, what does that look like? I mean, I know it doesn't look like the same thing for everybody, but are there some general things that you're often doing there?
Yeah. This is always our answer. Like, it depends, right? So, let me just say, like, I vet our athletes always really heavily, like when they come into our coaching program. So like, I'm asking them all of the questions to make sure, like, is this a good idea to work on body comp? Like, is their goal realistic? Is their timeline realistic? Do they have a history of an eating disorder? I don't work with athletes in like an active eating disorder, but if they historically like have, it's been years since they've recovered from one, then usually I'm like, we're not going to really like prioritize weight loss here. Like, let's just optimize nutrition and have you be the strongest, healthiest athletes you can. Cause like mental and physical health is always my top priority. So like, keep in mind, I vet them very, very heavily. I have like a long list of things that I have to make sure I'm checking off all the boxes to make sure this is like appropriate. Yeah. Which for most of them are, because I work with like athletes that I don't work with a lot of like professional elite level athletes. It's just your everyday like people that this is their hobby that they're really passionate about, but maybe they've seen the kind of like that sneaky weight gain over the past few years. And they're like, yeah, I'm like 10 pounds heavier than I was when I had my fastest marathon. I really like to PR again. I'd like to get down, back down to 10 pounds lighter. Or like we've had cyclists where they're like, yeah, I'm just not seeing any like performance gains. And I'm like 20 pounds overweight. And so like, well, like, yeah, okay, let's work on body comp and keep that FTP where it's at or even maintained. And we're able to do that. But we need to first look at like, okay, what does your eating look like in your day-to-day? What does your eating look like in your training? Seeing if there's things that we can improve with like how they're fueling in their workouts. Is there ways we can get them to see more performance and FTPs on the bike? Is there in their day-to-day nutrition, is there ways that we can get them at a calorie deficit in a way that's still going to support them having a regulated appetite, having energy in their day, and then looking at the timing of how we can do that with their schedule. Or maybe there's someone, I have this one athlete, I call him the furnace because he came to me, and when I calculated his needs, they were like around like maintenance was probably like 2,500 calories. And he was eating about 3,300 calories a day. Like he just was eating a ton of food. Like he just had a really healthy appetite is how I would describe it. And so I was like, you haven't seen any weight gain recently? He's like, my weight has been the same and I haven't been able to lose any weight. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, this is going to be interesting trying to get him down to like, his maintenance calories. And so we worked on like some mindfulness. We worked on bringing down his portion sizes and bringing down his calories to like that 2,500 calorie range, which by calculation was still like a little bit above maintenance, but he was seeing weight loss through that. And so it was interesting in that standpoint of like, he just felt like anytime he got hungry, he kind of panicked and he would eat a ton. And there he started trusting himself just by doing some journaling and me assuring him like, no, you're getting enough to eat. Like, it's okay to feel hungry like half an hour before you have lunch. You know what I mean? So like working through that with him to feel comfortable, it was a really like amazing experience for him. And he was able to drop, I'm trying to remember, like 12, 15 pounds in about 4 months. And his power to weight ratio is the highest it's ever been. It was like 4.3 watts per kilo. Like it was massive. So in those types of situations, I'm like, yeah, let's work on body comp while you're still training, but let's be really strategic about it and always prioritize like your health and performance in that.
Yeah, I want to take a quick break to tell you about my virtual private practice, Eat for Endurance. You might think that working with a sports dietitian like me is out of reach, but I want you to know there are plenty of free and affordable resources to support you. Right now, I have 7 free downloads available on my website, eatforendurance.com, covering everything from fueling strategies to quick snack ideas. I also offer low-cost mini guides and masterclasses that fit your schedule on a variety of everyday and sports nutrition topics. And if you're looking for consistent support and direct access to me without the commitment or cost of one-to-one coaching, you will love my monthly nutrition membership, Fuel for Life Crew. For just $30 a month, you get access to every masterclass and resource I've ever created with new content added regularly. You get a supportive Slack community where you can ask me all your nutrition questions and connect with a small community of busy, active people just like you. And also live monthly Q&A calls or presentations where you get to tell me what you want to talk about. And of course, replays are available so you never miss out. There's no commitment. You can try it for a month and cancel after that if it's not for you, or you can get a big discount if you join for 3, 6, or 12 months at a time. Visit eatforendurance.com to grab your free downloads, explore my low-cost resources, go read my blog, sign up for my Fuel for Life Crew membership, or of course, to learn more about my one-to-one nutrition coaching services. All right, let's get back to the episode. Well, so then, that brings me to my next question is the calorie deficit piece. And then when we talk about low energy availability. So like, that's something that we talk about a lot on my podcast, and just making sure that we are, fueling yourself adequately. We have everything that your body needs. And especially when, and again, I'm not sure what your clients are coming to you with. And I know you're not working on this with everybody, right? But,
yeah.
I get a lot of people coming to me who do have some nutrient deficiencies, or they're depleted in other ways, or, and so it's like, so there may be a lot of people who, like, there are a lot of people in my practice where it's not appropriate for a calorie deficit, but just generally speaking, we're thinking about a calorie deficit and high training load and just kind of these performance goals and taking care of health. Like, how do you think about that in relation to making sure they do have enough energy availability or energy available for normal body function and exercise and all that stuff?
Yeah, I think a lot of athletes, when they're trying to lose weight on their own, when they're training a lot, is they will try and like diet in their training. Like they might be like, oh, I'm going to like skip fueling before this workout, or I'm like not going to take this extra gel, because they associate sugar with weight gain.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of the opposite, where I'm like, no, let's lean in and really fuel this workout really well so you can get the most out of this training, and then hone in on the rest of the day where we can dial back the calories a little bit, maybe later on in the day, because we've fueled yourself so well earlier on when you're more active. Sometimes it's more about timing necessarily and having that slight calorie deficit than it is necessarily just looking straight at like energy availability. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That's like for us is what we have found is more of like, let's hone in on when you're most active and really fueling that well, and then find other parts of the day where we can be strategic. Or like things like nutrient deficiencies, let's make sure that they're still getting plenty of fruits and vegetables in their day. Like a lot of people don't eat enough. So it's like, can we really maximize getting enough nutrients through our food and diet alone? Or like if they're iron deficient, let's make sure we've got an iron supplement in there. We're trying to bring their ferritin up. Like there's multiple things that we can work on while we're also like building that foundation in their day-to-day eating and bringing their body comp down.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's such tricky work. Again, it really is threading the needle.
It's so hard because like people want like this blanket advice of like what's going to help them lose weight. And I'm like, I can't offer that. I'm so sorry. Like, it's not me trying to be clickbaity on the internet. It's just me saying like, yes, this is possible, but we need to do this in a really smart, like supported way where we can monitor everything and not only get you to your weight goal, but then also set you up for maintenance too, where you feel comfortable, like staying healthy and not going back into this like restriction, like underfueling perspective.
Well, that's where it's this is like, I work a lot in the gray area with clients, and clients tend to have a lot of trouble in gray area.
Yeah,
but like this is like so gray area. Well, in some cases, so it's like people. This is such a hard one to pull off. I feel like, right? And I think this is in part why I'm often shying away from doing this kind of work, but also like. A lot of, I'd say, I mean, men have these goals clearly, but so many women, especially in their 40s and 50s and 60s. And so especially like perimenopausal women, I'm sure you get your fair share of athletes coming to you, noticing body changes and all that. And there's so much going on, and it isn't so cut and dry, like, go into a calorie deficit, you will lose weight. Like it's a very complex situation at times. And that's the other piece, is that it's not like sometimes, we do try to work on things and it's not really straightforward and it doesn't always happen. So I'm really curious in exploring, like you've talked about clients who had these successes, and I'm almost more curious about maybe clients you've struggled with to kind of hit some goals, and or specifically focusing on the female athlete population, and kind of what you've seen there and maybe how it differs.
Yeah, you'll probably relate to this. I tell my athletes, I'm like, hey, the ones that we don't see results from are the ones that struggle to do the work in making the changes and doing it consistently, right? Like, that's the hard thing. Plus, like, part of our process is doing some food journaling. Yeah. I think the food journal is a wonderful learning tool for athletes because you can visually see how your food choices translates to the nutrition that you're providing your body. Like, because when if someone told you like, oh, you're supposed to eat 120 grams of protein a day, what does that look like? Well, the journal, like when you journal and see visually what you ate in a day, you can be like, oh, this is what I ate today is around 120 grams, or maybe I'm short 10, 15 grams. Like, what does that look like? And so that journal provides that visual for people. And then it also translates to how they're feeling in their day-to-day energy and their hunger levels in their training. And so it helps connect the dots in that standpoint. Plus, the more that we know about how someone's eating and drinking, the better personalized feedback and advice we can provide them, right? So it's like, if we're not seeing weight loss, I can look back on their journal and being like, okay, well, you ate great these days, but then we had like a whole weekend where you were like 500-600 calories above where we needed to be. And like, you also didn't fuel your workouts really well either. So it's like, let's put our energy where we need it to be in the workout. And then you probably won't feel kind of this like sugar craving binginess mid-afternoon later on in the day. And so let's practice that next time that the weekend comes around. This is me just like making up hypothetical examples.
Sure.
But that's where, for me, I can use that food journal as our guide to see like what's working, what's not, and them always reporting back to me like how they're feeling, how's their energy levels, how are they sleeping, how is their training going, is training ramping up, is it slowing down, are we in a recovery week? Like, knowing those things, like where can we take advantage of opportunities to really hone in on body comp? And then maybe they're having like their biggest week ever and they're like, got a race coming up. It's like, yeah, okay, we're not going to prioritize body comp like the week that we're going to start a 3-day carb load. But like afterwards, once we're recovered, we can go back into a little bit of like a focus on body comp. Or maybe their race isn't even like a big deal. Maybe it's just like, this is just a practice race for my A race that's in 6 months. You know what I mean? Like that's something too to consider.
I'm gonna go back to the female athlete thing in a second, but actually I think it might be helpful for listeners to differentiate between weight loss and body comp. And I know we know what they are, but are you using them kind of interchangeably in a way, would you say?
I don't like the term weight loss.
But are you using it kind of in a same way, would you say?
When I say body comp, because when athletes come to me and they say, I want to lose weight, I'm like, well, what you really mean is you want to get leaner.
Get lean.
You want to lose excess body fat. You want to maintain the muscle, if not see muscle weight gain. And so like, oh yeah, that's what I mean. I was like, we need to do a body composition, like recomposition in that sense. So yes, we're seeing weight loss, but we're wanting to see the right weight loss. So it's not just like crash dieting and seeing your weight drop like 6 pounds in a week. It's like, no, let's have this be a really slow and steady weight loss. That's the good weight loss, where it's going to be mainly body fat and we're preserving that muscle mass. So that when I say body composition, I'm talking about getting leaner, maintaining the strength, and maintaining performance.
And that's where you'll go up in protein a bit and you'll really focus on.
Yeah, usually like 1.8 to 2 grams per kilo. If there's someone that's been eating a really low protein diet, then I'm like, okay, we're going to have to like gradually work our way up to where we need to be. So it might take a little bit longer. But if they're just short, like 20, 30 grams, then I'm like, okay, yeah, let's find some foods for you to easily like fit in your day that's going to bring your protein up. It's definitely, again, depends on the situation. But I don't want it to be like we're revamping their entire diet overnight. I want it to be a really seamless, gradual process, because it's just less overwhelming and they're going to be so much more successful long term.
Are you still following like carb guidelines, like, you know, the 5 to whatever it is, gram per kilogram, like all that kind of stuff? Or are you changing that up?
So what we found, because it gets really confusing when you have athletes doing like a 3-hour workout day versus like maybe like a 60-minute like recovery effort. And so like if they're including their sports fuel and their carb intake's all over the place.
Sure.
And so we actually have found that we keep how they fuel around their workout separate. And then any other carbs the rest of the day, we're kind of keeping in that baseline so that we can keep consistent, but then they're adjusting their fueling according to like the duration and intensity of the workout. So that's kind of how we've kind of separated it a little bit, but they still support one another. Does that make sense?
Oh, so you're not changing kind of the everyday nutrition?
Correct. No, we're not.
Oh, interesting.
Setting a baseline, and then we will have them adjust. So if they're averaging like 10 to 12 hours of training a week, we'll give them a baseline like calorie macros for that. And then depending on their workout, we'll just adjust the fueling according to the duration and intensity of that.
Okay. It's always interesting to hear how different dietitians do things, because people do things very different. Like I do things very differently, and it's just, that's always interesting to learn. It's not one right way to do it.
It was just like, it was hard to make sense for people, like with their carbs being like so roller coastery. So I'm like, let's separate them, but yet they're going to support one another. And so that has been probably one of the biggest things that's just help people understand like, hey, I have this foundation and that foundation might change depending on the season that they're in with training. You know, if they're in a high volume training versus off season, that baseline might shift. And then on top of that, they're going to adjust how they're fueling on the workouts. And that's going to stay consistent.
Yeah. But then with the baseline, of course, matching what their training volume is. So still fueling, so like the messaging still being like listeners, I want it to get across, like oftentimes we do things differently, but a lot of times the goal is very similar. Like we're still fueling the work that we're doing. We're just taking different
There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just like figuring out what makes sense.
So, you know, you're still eating carbs, you're still doing all the things. So going back to kind of female athletes specifically and weight loss goals or body comp goals, however you want to call it, to me, even though they are technically very different things, to me, it's kind of the same thing that we're talking about. How do you kind of handle that? And do you kind of see complications there in the results you get? Or I don't know, what do you want to kind of say about this specific population?
Yeah, being a woman is hard. I will just say that. Like, you have 2 kids, I have 3 kids. Like, I'm like late 30s, and I've had to like mourn the loss of like my 20-something metabolism. You know, like we just like as we age, we can't eat like we did in our 20s, is what I've discovered, and I'm still crying tears about it. But like also like we're fighting a little bit of a losing battle in terms of like muscle, right? So making sure that women are getting enough protein is really important to really preserve that muscle mass, because it's really easy for us to see that muscle loss as we get older, especially when we get into that perimenopause stage. So I will say a lot of the things that I work on are very similar with all of the athletes, but it's just a matter of like, hey, we've got these busy women who are like careers, they've got kids, they're usually like the default parent. They are trying to train a bunch and stay really active and be competitive. And it's a lot of stress. And so it's like, how can we press the easy button as many times as possible with their nutrition to get them to get the nutrition that they need so that we can stop that like sneaky little gradual weight gain that they see over the years and have them feeling like energized, sleeping well, fueling well, feeling their best self as they age. Because I think that our 40s, 50s, and 60s should be like the best years of our life. And it's hard when you're not feeling like comfortable in your body anymore.
Yeah. I mean, do you see similar results as you do kind of with your male clients?
Yeah. We had one gal, she's like 49. She saw 12-pound weight loss over last summer into the fall. Had a very like seamless marathon training block and had a great, I think she did the Philly marathon. And her ferritin went from, oh gosh, it was in like the 30s to 81 during that process too. Yeah. So, but again, it just comes to like down to like consistency in nutrition, fueling the training really well, and like having that support along the way to get you there.
Yeah. It's funny because like so often this is such like I feel like this goes so against the grain of a lot of conversations I've had on my podcast.
I'm in the minority, and I'm sure there's dietitians being like, what?
Well, and I also want to like, I'm sure that there have been plenty of other clients that it's not like I don't want the messaging to be that it's just this, oh yeah, like you're just going to do this and you're going to drop 10 to 15 pounds. Like I'm sure there are plenty of other clients.
Course of like 4 to 7 to 8 to 12. You know what I mean? Like this is not like a quick fix. This is like consistent work over months. That we're building this for people to like see this progress. It's not a quick fix. Some of our methods definitely a little bit quicker, but for women it tends to be a little bit slower. And you have to go into it without a deadline. You know what I mean? Like you have to, and let me tell you, Claire, I had my third baby September 2023. Like 3-4 months after that, I was like looking at pictures of myself. I'm like, oh, I'm definitely in the like postpartum body phase. And it was December 2023 where I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to start working on, I was still breastfeeding. So it was like, I'm going to start working on my nutrition. I'm not ready to start training again. And since then, it's pretty much consistently 1 pound weight lost a month, so slow. But now that I'm like probably 16, 17 pounds down since then, it was a very slow and steady process. And I've definitely put on muscle since then because I started training about 10 months postpartum. But I did it and I feel great. I like no injuries. Like it's definitely possible. And everyone's a little bit different in that journey. I probably, if I had journaled and maybe like worked with someone, I probably could have seen it a little bit faster. But like for me with my lifestyle, I was like, no, I'm comfortable with this. I'm not in a rush. And you have to go in without a deadline and just saying like, no, I'm going to be in this for the long haul. Like this isn't like a quick diet fix. This is me trying to eat better for the rest of my life kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think that really like right there, you hit the nail on the head is that most people, like, especially if they're working with somebody and they'll be like, okay, I'm working with you for 2-3 months or whatever the case may be. It's not cheap working with a sports dietitian, obviously, or whoever they're working with. And it's like, okay, I want to see these results now, and then in their head, and these things can take time. And even like if you're not working on a weight related goal, let's say it's some sort of health related goal. Let's say it's a GI issue goal, performance goal. I mean, of course we can see lots of improvements over a few months, but oftentimes our job is really to teach you principles and to give you the tools so that you can keep doing these things yourself. And we're kind of here in those initial phases to really hold your hand and kind of guide you through it. And then at the end of the day, these are things you're going to keep implementing and keep doing on your own. So again, this isn't just if you're working on your body comp. It could be with anything, any issue you're coming to us with. So a lot of the times, and again, I get it. People are impatient. I'm like the most impatient person ever. You want,
we're
especially
so
if you're
instant gratification.
I know.
And that's not how this works.
Yeah. But especially if you're really suffering in your body, whether it's like feeling uncomfortable in your body, whether it's having like GI issues or low energy or whatever it is, like, and just feeling like not you're like yourself and feeling crappy, like, of course you want to feel better as soon as possible. And so I think it's really easy for people, especially if it is a weight related goal, to, because the messaging always is like out in the greater world is like, eat less, exercise more, and that is the thing that will get you into trouble. And that's the thing that's not going to lead to results.
Endurance athletes aren't exercising enough.
I know, exactly. Exactly. Right. Like that. And that's often, especially in the female athletes I see, or actually with the male, with everybody, that's what runs people into the ground. Like that's what gets people into a really bad place with, whether it's injury or hormones or whatever it may be, GI, like we're seeing all these, I often get people when they've been so like burnt out from all the things and they just like, they can't do it anymore. They're just so at a loss. They're like, I'm scared to eat things. I don't know what to do. Like, I just can't take it anymore, And so I think that's often where it's like the last, it's like the last thing that I'm working on with many of these people, even though they still want weight loss, even at this point, it's like often that's the last thing I'm working on because we're like trying to like put out all these fires that have popped up as a result of like really long-term abuse to their body. Right. So and like I think of like a male client I have right now, and we're dealing with low testosterone and we're dealing with all these gut issues, and he very much wants to be lean and all this stuff, but like we have to first trust that like in repleting him and taking care of all this stuff and prioritizing health goals that his body will eventually get to a healthier place, that it will start to adjust a little bit, but really like prioritizing the health things first. And that's for that particular person. But, as you said, everyone's really different. And there will be people who come who are very kind of straightforward, clear cut, like, okay, cool. Let's just, you're not eating very consistently. Let's get rid of the night eating. Let's even things out. Let's change up the macros a little bit. And then things start to change. So I think it's really just understanding that, yes, everybody has different histories, baggage, whatever that they bring to the table when you're working with somebody, and that you really need to manage expectations with like how fast these things can happen if you are working on it. And I guess the other thing, is, especially with women and changing bodies and hormones, like, it isn't always so clear cut, and again, I'm sure you've had clients too, where you really have tried your best to kind of make things happen, even though you are seeing great results. I'm sure there have been some clients who are just like, why isn't this working? And maybe it is the client not putting in the work, but sometimes, the client is really trying and doing things and things just aren't really adding up. So it's all very tricky. And, I don't know. I just want to make sure people aren't getting the messaging that just do this and you lose weight,
Well, and the thing is too, that I want to make sure people understand, like, losing weight isn't going to be the cause of you feeling better, right? Like people are like, I'm so tired all the time. Like, if I could just lose 10 pounds. And I'm like, and then like, we'll get them eating better. And then a few weeks, like, I feel so much better already. I'm like, we're just getting started. And you haven't even you've only lost like a pound or two, but it's not this. Losing weight isn't automatically going to cause people to feel better, right? Like if they have like body dysmorphia or like really like poor like self like image issues, that's not going to solve those, like, or something like,
totally.
Okay, do you have a therapist? Sometimes I've asked people that when I'm vetting them, I'm like, do you have a therapist? Because I can just tell they've got some issues going on. I'm like, I can't be your therapist. And they're like, yep, I have a therapist. I'm like, perfect. Okay. Now we're going to, I'll be the food side of things. They're going to be the mental health side of things. Like that is important too, to also understand. It's like, we can get you feeling better just because we can get your nutrition better and give you better energy and sleeping better and all of those other things. And then the weight, the body comp, the weight can be something secondary that we can also work on as well, but it's not going to solve your problems. It's something that I make sure that people understand as well. And sometimes they just come in, they're like, I just want to fit into my clothes again, or I just want to like look hot in a bathing suit. And if I, and like, I'm like, okay, like, that's fine. Like, I get it. Like, you know, like people just want to feel and look their best. And I'm like, yeah, let's see what we can do with nutrition to help you get there.
Yeah. And I guess, so, okay, so there's this, we've spent a lot of time talking about, okay, you want to lose weight or change your body composition, everyone talk about it. Let's do that. But then what about working on the body image piece, or kind of like, because sometimes like I am working also with clients, especially if we decide that it's not appropriate to work on these things and we really just need to focus on that. We're working on, okay, how can we be more comfortable in your body, or just like navigate the changing body, or, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything else you kind of want to add to that, or,
I think understanding our body's responses, I think, is also important. So I have a client right now. She's a very high level cyclist in Europe. She's not a world tour cyclist, but she's actually like competing kind of at their level. And she is very aware of her weight. And she's very lean. Like, she's probably 15% body fat, which, I'm like, we can't get any leaner. Like,
yeah,
you cannot get any leaner. I was like, you are very lean. And I was like, no way are we going to work on weight loss. We have to work on just either weight maintenance. And then she did see like a kilo increase, like initially, but she also started winning a whole bunch. And I was like, yeah, we're keeping your weight just where it's at. And so she has done so much racing in the past 6 weeks, 7 weeks, that it's like she's constantly carb loading. She's constantly recovering from races. And so she's seeing some like just inflammation and stress response where she's seeing her weight. She's like, I just feel puffy. I feel like I'm like bigger than what I usually am. And I'm like, you are doing a massive amount of riding. Like I asked her just today, I'm like, what is your TSS score been the past 3 weeks? And it's anywhere from like 800 to 1200. And I'm like, that is crazy that you aren't really taking much rest days. I was like, I need you to like give yourself some grace here, because this is not like body fat gaining. This is you just retaining some fluids because your body's got some inflammation going on. I was like, we can maximize recovery as much as possible, but I need you to maybe take a rest day here or there to get your body back down to like a baseline. Because she did get sick a couple weeks ago and just like laid in bed for 2 days. She goes, oh, it felt so nice not to train for a couple days. I'm like, yeah, that's probably
that's a sign.
Girl, like, let's listen to our body here. And so I was like, can you please talk with your coach about including some more rest days in here, because this TSS score is too high and you're going to blow up here. And so it's hard though. Those European cyclists they're wild. Like, they are like, Tour's going on. I
have a recreational European cyclist right now, but very recreational and definitely. Actually, she falls into the bucket of, middle-aged woman, very unhappy with weight gain, came to me on a very restrictive diet, taking a million supplements with energy issues and all kinds, not recovering, all these issues. And actually, this is a perfect example of what we were talking about, because, we started fueling her workouts appropriately because she was really under fueling. She started feeling better. We got her to eat like bread and just other foods because she was so just like, I can't eat these foods. So getting her to eat more regularly, eating more. And she, one of the things she said to me in one of our last, because we just wrapped up working together in the last sessions, she said, I'm on the bike and I love myself. I love how I feel. I feel so strong. I feel amazing. And then I get home and I take a shower and I just hate my body.
Oh, so sad.
And
oh my God.
But that's such a common example. You know what I mean? Of just like hating what you like in 1 second you're loving like how you feel and you feel strong, you feel amazing. And then she's like, yeah. And then I look in the mirror and so of course we were talking through a lot of body image strategies and talking through things. And, she's frustrated that, she has gained some weight and she doesn't feel good in her body. But at the same time, like, I don't think she gained weight while we were working together. Like, we increased a lot of what she was eating. And so this happens a lot with my clients. I'm sure it does with you too. Where like, you're increasing how much you're eating sometimes. And if someone's so underfueled, like their body doesn't change. Like your body just like, sucks up those calories and nothing changes.
Like 800 calories to 1,000 calories a day. And so like for 6 months, we just worked her up to like an appropriate amount.
Yeah.
She's like, my weight's just staying the same. And I'm like, yep, and then finally when we get her to maintenance, she goes, I'm down like a pound or two. I'm like, yes, because we are finally like brought
Yeah.
the metabolism back up to like a healthy spot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Like,
Yeah.
it's a journey.
She had gained weight before we were working together, and then it was pretty stable while we were working together, and she hadn't lost weight or anything. But it was. But yeah, it's one of these hard things though, because with those types of clients, see, that's the type of client where I'm just like, we have to be so careful about how we work with weight and all that.
And like, if that's the type of client or the type of athlete that's listening, like, this is not me saying like you need to restrict more or you need to like, this is me saying like, hey, work with someone to get you in a really healthy spot so you're set up to get yourself leaner in a way that doesn't put you at risk for REDs or injury or like poor performance. Like, let's get you in a really good spot to do this the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like in my mind, that type of client, like there's just so much like prerequisite work that we have to do to get her to a really healthy spot. And then like, then we kind of reevaluate where we're at. So kind of what I said earlier, where it's like, let's do all the stuff we need to do to get your body healthy. Your labs are in a good spot. Your performance is good. You're sleeping well, moods, like just all the things are in a good spot, because often they're not when they come to me. And then let's kind of evaluate where things stand. And often what happens is like a lot of things improve except for weight's the same. And so they're like, oh, I love all the stuff, but I'm frustrated with the weight piece. And then depending on the person and then what's going on with the situation, then maybe we can start to tweak little stuff. But yeah, is there anything else you want to say on this topic? I know there's like, we could spend forever on this topic, but
I feel like this was a good debate. I feel like
it was.
Yeah. I loved this. I think
it's funny because like, I'm kind of, as I said, I'm always open to things. And I'm very adamant that I always want to protect people and make sure we're doing everything in a really, really healthy way. And I actually really like the way that, like, what you've described to me. It sounds very reasonable, and you clearly have, your radar up for anything that's obviously not safe, right? So you're very aware of kind of REDs and injury risk and just all the things that could happen. I think it definitely... It takes an incredibly knowledgeable practitioner and a very specific type of client, I will add, to be able to navigate this type of work. And you have to be just so slow and so intentional with everything. So yeah, if an appropriate client comes my way, it might be something I would consider dabbling in. But it's so far, I just haven't really gotten there with people because so often we're just in the weeds of all the other stuff. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think this is a great conversation. I really appreciate you sharing all that with us. What's on the horizon for you? You said you're training for a gravel race. Like, what else are you up to as an athlete?
Yeah, that's like as last fall, I was like, we're done having kids, like done growing our family. And so I was like, oh, I really want to get back to like endurance sports and do something for me and feel like myself again. I think a lot of like moms can want to feel that way again, like after they're done having kids. And so, yeah, I was like, I can't go back to triathlon because I just do not have the time to train for 3 sports at once, especially the swimming piece, because it's just probably like a 25-minute drive to the pool. And so it'd be like hour drive time just to like get to the like and to and from the pool. And I was like, ugh, that just sounds like a nightmare to try and like set myself up to struggle and fail. And so I was like, I really love this like gravel cycling idea. It's been a really growing in popularity sport. And so I've always liked biking. So I got a gravel bike in August, and I've close with the Trainer Road people. And so I started using Trainer Road in October. I saw my FTP just like skyrocket over the winter because I trained like 5-6 hours a week on the trainer all winter long. I just watched Netflix. I had a rule where I was like, the only time I could watch like a show that I wanted to watch was if I was on the trainer. So like I got caught up on a lot of movies and shows that I've been wanting to see. And then also one of my former clients, she runs a like gravel bike women's camp in Oregon and this
Oh, fun.
fall. And so I went in April to Oregon and I rode for a few days out there and just had the best time. And so I signed up for a couple races and I got one coming up this weekend in North Dakota. Hopefully I'll get in on a fall race. I missed the registration. So the race, of course, I want to do in October is full, but hopefully
Oops.
transfer. And that's kind of just been like my fun thing to do right now. And then in my favorite pastime right now is hunting Strava segments and getting the Queen of the Mountain on the
that's funny.
local hometown. So that's like been my fun for myself, like outside of being a mom and a business owner and all the other millions of things that got going on.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm gonna do my quick bites questions and then we'll wrap up here today. What is your favorite pre-workout meal or snack?
Pancakes and syrup, for sure. It's like my go-to.
Yeah. What about after a workout?
My favorite thing would be like smoked salmon on a bagel with a little cream cheese. It's my favorite thing ever. So good.
Yum. What is the most exotic or interesting food you've ever tried?
Exotic? Well, I mean, when I used to work at the grocery store, they would get like exotic fruits and like jackfruit and that type of stuff. So I've tried a lot of those things. But otherwise, like, I don't know, I live in Minnesota. We're not exactly known for like wild cuisine, wild cuisine. Yeah. So I'd probably just say those exotic fruits from the grocery store.
Okay.
Probably the most.
How do you like your eggs cooked?
Over easy.
What is your favorite beverage?
If you ask anyone, it would just be plain water. But if I had to go with something that wasn't water, every once in a while, I like a root beer, like a good root beer.
What are your comfort foods?
Ice cream. I do like ice cream a lot.
What's your favorite flavor?
As I used to. Just a vanilla, like, so I can put different toppings on if I want. But right now there's it's called Super Scoop. It's like a Superman ice cream with the different colors. My kids really like that, and I will say it is delicious. It's really good.
Nice. All right, last question. Top 3 items of gear that are most essential to your active lifestyle. For
me on gravel, definitely I love my hydration vest. I've got it's USWE's the letters. It's like a 2-liter pack. So when I go on a long hot ride, I'm a very salty sweater. So I load that up with a hydration mix and some electrolytes and can go for quite a while, keep myself hydrated with that. And so that'd be one. And then heart rate monitor and some gels. Usually I like the Carbs Fuel ones right now. They're like 50 grams.
Yeah. I just had one of the co-founders on my podcast.
Did you?
Aaron.
Yeah.
I
haven't tried their salty one yet, though. That's on my list.
Yeah. What kind of hydration mix do you usually use?
I like super high carb scratch with extra scoop of the regular scratch. But Tailwind sent me some stuff recently, so I've been using that. It's been really good.
Nice. Awesome.
So those are my usually go-tos. I sampled all of that. I had 15, 16 different ones, all sat out on my kitchen counter, mixed up, and I tried them all. And I was like, oh, I can see why Tailwind and Scratch are the most popular. They just mixed really nice. They tasted really good. Nutritionally, their profile is pretty decent. And so,
those are my 2 faves.
They're just the best.
Yeah. Awesome. Alex, where can everyone find you if they want to work with you or one of your other dietitians or give you a follow?
Yeah, I'm at Alex Larson Nutrition on social, and then my website's alexlarsonnutrition.com, and then I've got that Endurance Eats podcast as well. I've got a couple body comp episodes on there if people are more interested in learning more about our process. Because, like I said, I'm in the minority, that's for sure, which is always kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Alex. Have a good one.
Yeah, thanks, Claire.
That's our show for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you're enjoying the podcast, I'd love it if you shared it with a friend or on social media and leave us 5-star rating and review. And of course, hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss out on the next episode. If you'd like to support my free content, you can check out my affiliate codes on the shop page of eatforendurance.com, or you can visit my Patreon page. Both are linked in the show notes. Also, I am so excited because I'm making 6 new stickers with super fun phrases and creative, colorful designs. I will hopefully be selling those in October, but they have phrases like make carbs great again, and bagels are my spirit animal, and fueled for adventure, and just so many other cool things. So I will keep you posted on that. And of course, all proceeds will support the podcast. If you've already grabbed some of my free resources and want more consistent support, again, consider joining the Fuel for Life crew membership over at eatforendurance.com for just $30 a month. And finally, I always love hearing from you guys. So whether it's feedback, topic requests, or just to say hi, thank you so much for listening. I will see you all next time.